Well, Mark Gardner from MPC Markets joins me now in the studio. Great to see you, Mark.
Good morning.
So over the weekend, a bit going on Friday at least, the markets finished after a bit of a volatile trade.
Yeah, so obviously Thursday was one of the worst days we've had in quite some time. We got a little bit of a bounce back there. Was looking to be slightly derailed at a fairly heated exchange between Zelenskiy, JD Vance and President Trump. At one stage, but still managed to finish the night, fairly positive. In what was a pretty horrible week, really, for US markets. But we've got US and Australian earnings now largely just completely out of the way. We'll probably turn our focus a little bit to economic numbers for the week ahead.
And so, what was the market impact of that tussle between Trump and Zelensky?
There was initial weakness, but it tended to grind. It then just tended to grind higher into the close. I think the last 2 hours was where most of the positivity came in. It was month end, so there's probably a little bit of window dressing going on there. But we've got obviously this Tuesday the Canada and Mexico. Tariffs are supposedly coming back in. Whether we see another holiday on those again, which will be, we wait to see. But that is the life of financial markets and investors and brokers these days with Trump. Is you have to just wake up in the morning and see what happens. So yeah, obviously, and we've had crypto over the weekend rise quite considerably. I think Bitcoin's regained 90,000. As 5 cryptocurrencies have been added by executive order and may not have to go to Congress to the strategic reserves. So I think Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana and Ripple. I don't know the other one, but obviously we've seen some fairly large rallies in those cryptocurrencies over the weekend. So that just sort of adds to the legitimacy of crypto generally as an asset class. And Trump sort of said from the beginning he was going to be pro-crypto. So, we'll sort of see what happens over the week there. But obviously, they're only market that's open over the weekend. So you sort of miss probably, I think they've rallied anywhere from sort of 8 to 60% depending on which currency you're talking about.
And crypto also rallied after the data that came out on Friday out of the US.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know whether that's more coincidence than it is, necessarily to do with the data. The PCE data was largely in line, 2.6, and it is still softening. But we are starting to see analysts and market pundits starting to look at the fact that the data is weakening in possibly not the best way overall. With consumer sentiment starting to nosedive a little bit. We've got US payrolls this Friday, which is increasingly become the big show for yet again after inflation data has been stealing the headlines for the last sort of 18 months. Expecting 4% unemployment rate and around 150 again. It'll be interesting to see if there's any revisions. We've seen quite a few previous months being revised down as time goes on. We haven't had a negative payrolls number since I think December 2020. So it'll be interesting to see. This will be one of the first numbers where Trump's been in power the whole time, and I think as well, obviously, whether they're counting the administrative leave from the amount of jobs that he's been cutting from government jobs actually comes into the numbers, or whether they're given that 6-week hiatus. So while those Doge savings are great for the budget, they're not going to be great for the employment numbers overall. So. It'll be interesting to see how those numbers come out, because I think that'll set the tone for the rest of the month.
And how did that PCE data impact the expectations of what the Fed will do next?
I don't think it really makes any difference at the moment. I think the uncertainty around tariffs, particularly, if these tariffs come back in, that is short-term inflationary. It's going to push those numbers back up. We did see, some PMIs that are going to come out this week. Will probably, also set the tone for purchasing managers, obviously, both in the services and the manufacturing industry. But I think there's a whole slew of data this week, really. There's the ECB, we've got Australian RBA minutes, we've got PBOC National Congress as well, which we probably expect to see some more announcements out of stimulus. So it's going to be a fairly wild week, I would have thought, because there is a lot coming out from a lot of different countries, and if those tariffs do go into place, I think people will start ignoring the backward-looking inflation data, because they're going to be worried about forward-looking inflation due to tariffs. So it's sort of those numbers are increasingly becoming irrelevant because Trump's policies are going to push inflation higher if he does follow through with the tariffs.
So US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick did confirm those tariffs will come into effect from Tuesday. However, it seems quite fluid as to whether Trump will stick to that 25% on Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It depends on, I mean, you've really got to look when Trump's talking. If he's talking to, at a rally, or he's talking to, or pandering to his audience, he can be quite extreme. And then, he seems to water things down a little bit when it comes to actually making policies. So we won't know until Tuesday. He could very much come out tonight and be, rattling spears and saying this is definitely going to happen, which is what he did a month ago, and then turn around basically on a Wednesday and say that he's come to a great deal. That like I said, the Trump era really means that we've just got to wait until these sort of things play out, and then still probably be on guard because he's been very, very much known to reverse those decisions very quickly once he gets even a portion of what he wants.
And you mentioned some things that were on the calendar this week. So let's focus on the RBA minutes. What would we be expecting to see there?
I think we'll be expecting to see how divided and probably how politically motivated the RBA was with their easing, because I think what forced their hand particularly was that in the event that there was any sort of spike in inflation leading into the election, they don't like to move rates within a couple of months of any election, because they don't like to, particularly an easing. Because they don't like to, obviously have the perception where they've given one side an advantage. So I sort of do agree with the fact that they probably 25 was very safe, but I think what will come out of the minutes is that if that election wasn't there, we wouldn't have cut, and I think that they are worried about these policies from the US really pushing inflation back up at some stage. We've seemed to, and that's the MPC market's house view has been that Australia will likely sit in the sweet spot where our commodities are needed from both nations, and will probably be fairly lucky, neutral, friendly. But I think the best advice to any trade minister, either in future or now, is just keep your head down and don't make ourselves an obvious target. So I think the fact that Trump has mentioned us but not necessarily wanted to impose any tariffs, and we've got a lot of critical minerals, means that we're probably going to remain friendly there. It's just whether China retaliates at some stage. So they've been fairly quiet. They've had about 9 to 12 months really to be planning for this. I think they'd be more worried about their own domestic economy than they will be any tariffs going forward.
Okay, and anything else overseas that you're keeping your eye on this week?
Not necessarily this week. I think it's really just be watching those economic numbers as they come out. The ECB particularly is not really something we're particularly focused on. So I think the main focus will be domestically RBA minutes, the tariff announcements, and then the payrolls numbers towards the end of the week.